Guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Now, in today's video, guys, I am going to be going over the Resident Evil Project W chapter that has just gone onto the PTB in Dead by Daylight. So, it should be coming on live servers by the beginning of September, hopefully. And let me just say right off the bat, this is honestly the first time I've been really excited. Like, I'm always, a little bit excited for a new chapter coming in Dead by Daylight, but I realize that I'm probably just going to be excited for the first couple of weeks, then I'm going to get all the perks, play the killer for a little bit, and then probably just forget about the chapter after that. But this chapter, however, gets me excited, and I honestly have not been this excited for a new chapter since the previous Resident Evil chapter when we had the 5th anniversary. And now we have the second part to the Resident Evil chapter. They did announce this in the 6th anniversary. And, this makes sense. There is definitely a lot more lore that comes with Resident Evil characters, all that kind of stuff, villains. There's a lot more you can do. So they're taking advantage of their Resident Evil license that they acquired. And now they're adding this new killer called Albert Wesker. And I cannot believe my boy Wesker from the Resident Evil franchise is now in the game with his freaking awesome sunglasses. He's even got a bunch of voice lines and everything like that. I'm just going to say right off the bat, again, like they always do, they nailed the voice lines, they nailed the Mori, they nailed the animation, all that kind of stuff. His Mori is really, really great. Basically, the survivor, punches him in the face, and then he gives him, a Batman punch right back, knocks him on the ground, and then, sticks his Ouroboros in the ground, and then they, come up from the ground and stick out of their mouth and their ears and all that. It's amazing. So once again, nailed all that aspect, but now we're going to talk about the stuff that really matters, not just the aesthetic stuff, but the stuff that really matters, the new, power and the perks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be going over that. Additionally, they made a few map changes, so I'm going to go over, my thoughts on that, stuff and all that. But first, let's go over the new killer. They call it the Mastermind. I'm just going to be calling him Wesker in this video. And his power is the virulent bound. Sorry, guys. And basically, they say obstacles. I think that's pretty misleading. Really, it's dropped pallets and windows. But basically, his power is that he has this bound attack. And there's multiple different ways you can use this. So I'm just gonna go over how they explain it in the actual game. So it says special attack, bound attack. Press and hold the power button to charge a bound attack. While charging, the Mastermind moves slightly slower and he is prepared his strike. When charged, press the attack button to bound. Hitting a survivor with a bound attack afflicts them with infection. Hitting a survivor already afflicted with infection with a bound attack will increase their infection. Crashing into something during a bound attack will slam a nearby survivor, causing damage. If not, the survivor is thrown and loses his health state if they are thrown into any solid object. So I think they explained it a little bit confusing, but that gives you kind of an idea. Basically, on his attack side of his power, if there's a survivor that he wants to attack, so just like with Nemesis, his power, by the way, is very similar to Nemesis's, and I think it's just seeing all the gameplay for it and everything like that, I'm really, really excited to start playing him. I wish they would just add freaking cross progression so that I could do these PTBs and get, try these new killers out early, but they still haven't added cross progression, so anyways, his power is very similar to Nemesis's, and I'm really excited to try it out. I think it's like a Nemesis 2.0 because it seems even more fun. I didn't think there could be a power that's even more fun than Nemesis. If you guys don't know, I haven't been doing a whole lot of live streams lately, so, you haven't really got to see all my progression and stuff, but I've pretty much been maining Nemesis, and I really enjoy playing Nemesis, so having this killer come out gets me really excited because his power is just as satisfying and cool to use. I mean, come on, you get to literally slam survivors into walls. Basically, how it works is you charge your power. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. You charge your power like you would with Nemesis. Your tentacle comes out. It's the Ouroboros. You attack the survivor, and instead of just hitting them like you would with Nemesis and infecting them, you grab them. And there's one of two things that can happen. Actually, yeah, one of two things that can happen. You can either grab them and just basically yeet them in front of you, just throw them. If there's nothing in the way, no objects in the way or anything like that. But in most case scenarios, as far as I've seen, the most gameplay that I've seen of this has been indoors. So maybe I'm a little bit maybe I'm a little bit skewed on my my experience here, but most of what I've seen is most of the time you're going to be able to hit the survivor in a solid object, which is what you want. You don't want to just throw the survivor forward. I don't even think that infects the survivor if you don't collide with anything. I don't think it infects the survivor. Nonetheless, ideally what you want to do is you want to be by a solid object to slam the survivor and grab them. So charge your power, attack. It'll grab them, and then it will eject the survivors forward into the wall, and you'll essentially slam them into the wall, and they'll be infected and injured. And then, obviously, the more times you do this, the more their infection meter goes up. And interestingly enough, you can actually do this to multiple survivors. So let's say there's one survivor healing. If you attack that survivor, and that survivor gets ejected into another survivor, then that survivor will also get injured. But I've seen through testing that you cannot down the second survivor. You can only down the first survivor, so you can only injure the survivor if they are healthy in this type of scenario. But still, that is pretty darn powerful. It's kind of like with Nemesis when you charge your power, you infect the survivor, and then right after there's a zombie right there and they down them. It's kind of like that. Or, Pyramid Head where you're a survivor just unhooked and you down both of the survivors. You can't do that anymore because one of the survivors obviously gets endurance, but it's kind of like that. And it's really, I'm imagining this is probably going to be really satisfying when you're able to pull this off, which gets, again, there's just so many different things you can do with this killer. His power just seems so fun to use. Through the gameplay, it just looks so freaking fun to use, so I can't wait for it. But the way his infection works is kind of like the reverse of Nemesis in a way. Instead of your infection meter going up, it's the survivor's infection meter going up each time you hit them. I'm a little bit concerned with how many hits you have to get to actually fully infect them. Because if it's like any more than 3 hits, I don't think that's good. Like, you're gonna have a similar problem with Nemesis where it just takes too many hits to get to your full infection rate. So I have not seen how many hits it takes, but hopefully it's not more than 3. And then it says special ability Bound Vault. If Wesker hits basically he's able to charge his power and vault over dropped pallets and windows. So he's the only other killer besides Legion who's able to actually vault over dropped pallets. So he can use his power to vault over drop pallets or windows, and trust me, it goes pretty quick. It's a pretty quick animation, and it can get you right back on the survivor's butt, really quickly. Especially this is one of the unique. He has kind of this unique ability where God pallets really aren't as strong with this killer. Because if you know that there's a God pallet coming up, which most of the time it's pretty obvious, on most maps you know what the God pallets are going to be if you're experienced enough, you can charge your power and be ready to vault over that pallet and not lose any distance from the survivor dropping the pallet. And obviously, over time, there's going to be counterplay, just like with Nemesis, where they kind of wait a minute for you to try to charge your power and kind of trick you, and then they stun you with the pallet. So obviously, there's going to be some counterplay with that, but I imagine that he is going to be pretty good in chase, because this is not the only way you can use your power is to down survivors quickly. You can also use it for sort of a mobility. It's more of like a mobility in chase where you can catch up to the survivors quicker, obviously with being able to drop over the pallets and going over windows, but also being able to have sort of like a mini blink in chase. Where you can bound twice, because you're able to bound twice with this power. So maybe there's a few obstacles that you need to go over. You can sort of zigzag your way and catch up to the survivor. So his power is obviously very much anti-loop. It helps them down the survivors quicker. But unlike Nemesis, another bonus that he has is he is also able to catch up to the survivors quicker in chase when he loses his distance. But obviously, Nemesis has his own little niche with the zombies and everything like that, so it kind of balances it out. We'll see over the next few weeks how high he kind of falls on the the killer tier list, and which I really need to make a new killer tier list because it has been a while. But we'll see how where he falls on the killer tier list and everything like that within the next couple weeks when survivors actually start to build a counterplay for him, and we really get to see what his chasing potential is when killers become really good with Wesker. But that's not it. Special Affliction, Ouroboros Infection. Basically, an infected survivor suffers from the hindered status effect. And unlike with Nemesis, where the first time you infect the survivor, they get kind of like a half a second infection, which I think is really stupid. Like, it should definitely be longer than that. Because survivors get huge distance when you infect the survivors, when you infect them, which I think is really, really stupid. But, in the other case, this is about Wesker, obviously. Any survivor who is infected suffers from the hindered status effect. If they're not fully infected, it's a -5% penalty. If they are fully infected, it's a -8% penalty. This is pretty darn good, and it's definitely going to encourage the survivors to have to, or to want to, how do you want to say it? To want to heal themselves or to clear their infection more than with the Nemesis, because it's more of a penalty for them in chase, I feel like. So yeah, I think this gives the survivors more of a they feel more obligated to clear their infection than with Nemesis, because with Nemesis, if they're healed, it's still essentially going to take 2 hits to down the survivor. So it really only matters if they're injured and infected, because obviously it's going to be easier to down that survivor. But with Wesker, you're going to be moving slower in chase, and also you have the threat of, and I didn't mention this yet, if you are fully infected and he attacks you with the tentacle, he is able to just straight up grab you. It doesn't matter if you're healthy or if you're injured, just straight up grab you, which is essentially an instant down if you're healthy. So yeah, already I'm sensing that Wesker is probably going to be a better version of Nemesis. I'm still going to be playing Nemesis a lot, don't get me wrong, because it's very satisfying to play. But I can't wait to start getting really, really good at this killer. I'm super, super excited. And then the last part, which is to be expected, he does have, a similar thing to Nemesis, where you can clear your infection by using a first aid spray. Several supply crates spawn throughout the map, presumably 4 for each survivor. And you use the first aid spray to clear your infection. So that's basically his full power. I'm super excited to start playing him when he comes out. The first day, hopefully, I can start playing him and really having some fun with this killer. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. Now talking about all the perks, there are 9 perks to go over. Starting out with Wesker's perks, we have Superior Anatomy, which basically makes it so that when a survivor bolts within fast vaults within close proximity of you, you're able to vault at a significantly faster speed than you normally would be. It has a cooldown of 30 seconds. Sorry guys, I kind of blanked out there for a minute. But it has a cooldown of 30 seconds. I think some people have gotten a little bit too excited about this perk. I really don't think it's going to be that amazing. I think it's going to be similar to Dissolution, in the sense where you're only probably going to be, it's only probably going to come in clutch in niche scenarios, and you're only going to be able to use it once in chase. A 30-second cooldown is pretty much going to ensure that you're only going to use this once in chase, assuming that you're a good killer. But don't get me wrong, 40%, it's definitely a lot. If you put this in a build, I'm sure it could be really, really great and really shine. But outside of that, I don't know if it's going to be super good. A lot of people were worried that it wasn't going to be super good on Wesker because he already has a fast bolt with the bound and everything like that, and they probably didn't think that it was going to stack with his bound, but it actually does, and it makes it just as fast as it is when he just regularly bounds. But I don't think you really need to combine the two. I don't think you really need to run this perk with Wesker. I don't think it's really going to make that big of an impact. He already bolts at an insane speed with his power, so I don't think it's really that necessary, but it's definitely very impactful. And I imagine with Tier 3 Myers as well, this could be really powerful. Just imagine Tier 3 Myers with coup de grace and this perk and fire up and all that kind of stuff. It could get crazy. Don't get me wrong. Or Wraith with Shadow Dance. Oh my God, there's so many different possibilities, but I wouldn't get too excited about this perk. It's going to be one of those run in a build or don't run it at all kind of perks. And then we have Awakened Awareness. While carrying a survivor, basically when you carry a survivor, you get to see the auras of other survivors within 20 meters of you, and then the effect lingers for 2 seconds. This is essentially a better Hangman's Trick, and tells us that we really need to buff Hangman's Trick already, because it hasn't been touched since, I think since the chapter came out, because they buffed Hangman's... No, I don't even think they buffed it. I think they nerfed Hangman's Trick shortly after the Saw chapter came out, and then it has never been touched again. So it's kind of a wake-up call that we really need to buff Hangman's Trick. But yeah, it's essentially a better Hangman's Trick, and I think it could work really, really well with Starstruck, Nurse, or whatever killer you run Starstruck on. It could be pretty powerful, and it's just in general kind of good information, especially with the fact that the effect lingers for 2 seconds. I don't think it's going to be insane, though, unless you're running it with Starstruck Nurse or something like that, in which Starstruck Nurse is already powerful even without, just with Starstruck. Like, just running Starstruck with Nurse is already powerful enough. So, yeah, we'll see. This perk, however, is probably the perk I'm most excited for, because it introduced something that I have been wanting to see in a perk for a while. In fact, I wanted... Knockout to be buffed in this way, and it is make it so that when you down a survivor with Knockout, they suffer from the broken status effect while in the dying state for a certain amount of time. And they did that with Terminus, but in sort of a different way. It's another endgame perk, and basically once the exit gates are opened, injured, dying, or hooked survivors are suffer from the broken status effect. And after the exit gates are opened, it lingers for another 30 seconds. And a lot of people are not too sure about this perk. They think it's going to be kind of a niche endgame perk. But think about it. When No Way Out was released, when the Trickster chapter, the All Kill chapter came out, a lot of people were saying No Way Out is just going to be one of those endgame perks that's not going to be pretty good. But then what did you see? No Way Out essentially became meta. You see a lot of killers using it. It can get, it can come in clutch. It can get another kill or two, most of the time, because it gives you an extra minute to down survivors, hook survivors, whatever you want to do. Take advantage of. And I think the same is going to apply with Terminus. So you can run this perk on its own, or you can run it in combination with No Way Out, and I think it could be pretty powerful. Just No Way Out and Terminus alone, you don't need you don't need Remember Me or Know It or whatever. Just these two perks together, I think could be pretty strong. And dying survivors not being able to be picked up is pretty powerful, especially because obviously you can't do heal tech or anything like that, and the effect lingers for 30 seconds. So think about it. Now, I'm trying to think. If you down a survivor after the exit gates are powered, does this effect still apply? I would assume so. But if not, it would require that you kind of get prepared before the exit gates are powered. Like, you have to know, hey, the last gen's going to pop here pretty soon. I need to get a survivor hooked or something. I hope that's not the case, because, let's say there's an injured survivor, and there's multiple other survivors by this injured survivor, and you somehow get the down on them, and they're very, very close, they're in the exit gate, or they're just about to escape, and the survivors can't perform a heal tech on that survivor because they're broken. This perk could come in clutch. So, yeah, I'm hoping this perk works how I anticipate it. But yeah, other than that, we will see when people start using it, and we see all the testing and everything like that, and learn how exactly it works. Otherwise, getting onto the survivors perks, we have Ada and Rebecca. So for Ada, I was a little bit disappointed in this first perk. I was thinking it was gonna work like, it makes the killer like slower when he gets in a certain distance of a generator, but it worked a little bit differently. So I'm a little bit sad. I was hoping it would work. It would be kind of like one of those blast mine or flashbang perks. But basically, when you repair a generator for a certain amount of time, you can press the active ability button and activate this wiretap for up to 80 seconds in Tier 3. And the survivors can see the trap generator in yellow, obviously, And when the killer comes in within 14 meters of the trap generator, his aura is revealed to all survivors. And then if he damages the generator, then the perk deactivates. I think this could be pretty decent. I don't think it's going to be anything super impactful, but obviously seeing the killer's aura is a pretty good thing. But I don't think it's going to be anything out of this world. I was hoping it would like slow down the killer if he got into a certain range of the generator. But still pretty interesting. We'll see how it goes. Then we have reactive healing, which I'm kind of curious if this is another one like Terminus. I'm kind of curious if it would work in a certain way, where it could kind of give you just a passive health state. But basically, if a survivor gets injured within 32 meters of you, you instantly get up to 35% of your of heal progression. I'm curious that in a hypothetical world, if a survivor got injured, if there was like two different survivors, one of them got injured twice and then another one got injured once, would your heal progress, would you be able to essentially be able to gain a health state if you are still within the range of that survivor? Because you get 35%, you get another 35%, and that's up to 70%, and then you get an additional 35%, and then you should hypothetically be full health. I'm assuming the way that this is going to work is it can only give you 35%, and then after that it won't let you heal anymore. But we'll see. I'm hoping it works in the fun way where you could essentially just get passive health states and not have to worry about healing, in which this perk could be pretty dang good. You'd be surprised how often survivors get injured within your range, and 32 meters is pretty generous. So this perk could potentially give you passive health states. I don't think it's going to be anything out of this world. I still think Boon Circle of Healing is probably going to be a better option, but still, passive healing could be pretty good. And then we have probably the worst perk out of all of the perks that all the new perks that we've gotten out of this chapter. Low profile basically makes it so that you don't have any pools of blood or scratch marks for up to 90 seconds. Or it says it suppresses. It doesn't say it removes. It says it suppresses. So hopefully that means it's completely removed. Because if it just suppresses, that's just stupid. And also the fact that it has a time limit. But when you're the last survivor, basically you don't have any pools of blood or scratch marks. It's a niche perk. The fact that it has a cooldown, I think, is just a slap in the face. I mean, 90 seconds is probably all you're gonna need, but still, why does this perk even have a time limit when it's already super niche? It's stupid. Don't run this perk. Yeah. And then we get on to Rebecca's perks. Better than new. Basically makes it so that after you heal a survivor, that survivor gets a plus 6% action speed bonus for up to 35 seconds. I think this perk is potentially a better Overzealous, because with Overzealous, you're doing something that is only productive in certain scenarios, because obviously if the killer doesn't have Noed or the killer doesn't have a Hex perk, then you just essentially wasted your time cleansing the totem. But with this perk, healing a survivor is never really... Sorry guys, I had to cut there for a second, but I'm hoping that I don't think the 6% is, regardless of the fact that you're healing the survivor, and that's obviously a good thing to do, I don't think there's no guarantee that the survivor is going to go off and do all these things. The survivor could just go off and, search a chest or cleanse a totem, in which that's, again, just a waste of time. So unless they go to repair, I don't think this perk is going to be super impactful. 6%, I don't think it's really that impactful. So I wish the numbers would be buffed with this perk and definitely Overzealous, but I think it's like a slightly better Overzealous, but still not a very great perk. Then we have Reassurance, which I would really like to use this perk, because I think it's essentially a better camaraderie, because with Reassurance, as far as I can tell, you don't really need to be in comms, unlike camaraderie, to really have this perk shine, because with camaraderie, it relies on your teammates getting within a certain distance of you to pause your hook timer. But with this, it's all in your control, and it doesn't matter if the survivor doesn't know, because they're their hook timer is going to pause. They won't get any skill checks. They won't have to worry about anything or anything like that. So it doesn't matter if they don't know. It's not like for the people where they're like it's unexpected or whatever, because they're not doing anything in the moment. And another thing, I'm pretty sure camaraderie doesn't work on the first phase. I could be wrong about that. But nonetheless, this perk works with the first phase and the struggle phase. It's on your command. Obviously, it applies to the second survivor. But what this means is you could get into close proximity of that survivor and then go off and do a gen for a little bit and not have to worry about unhooking them, which a lot of people have been saying, well, this perk really only is useful in phase camping scenarios where you need more time to get the opportunity to unhook the survivor. But what you don't understand is that camaraderie, I'll use that as an example because obviously it's like an alternative to camaraderie. Camaraderie is used pretty often in tournaments, and the way it's used is not to prevent phase camping and tunneling scenarios. Well, it would be phase camping, generally more phase camping, but even though phase camping is surprisingly pretty common in tournaments, the way that camaraderie is used is not really for helping with those phase camping scenarios. It's really more just for a time saver and being able to not have to worry about unhooking the survivor for a while, and just being able to just commit to your gen or whatever it may be. So I think this perk could potentially be a better camaraderie, a better alternative to camaraderie, it doesn't look like it would require comms or anything like that. Survivor wouldn't have to worry about knowing about this perk or anything like that. So really excited about this perk. Definitely one of the better ones. And then this is probably the most interesting one. I don't think I'm going to be using this one. I would rather just use like Fast Track and Stakeout. It's a lot more reliable. And this perk, I will tell you, is definitely very, very for the more advanced players. And it's called Hyper Focus. Which basically makes it so that you can get up to 6 tokens, and each time you hit a great skill check, you increase the skill check trigger odds and increase the skill check rotation speed. You can see the increase in numbers each time. It's +2 for the skill check trigger odds and +4 for the rotation speed, and then increases the skill check bonus progression by up to 30%. But the thing is, if you don't get a great skill check each and every time, you fail a skill check, or if you're interrupted, then this perk loses all of its tokens. I'm a little bit confused with the progression part. Does the progression build each time? I'm a little bit confused with how that works. It says increases the skill check bonus progression by 30% of the base value per token. I'm confused with how it's going to work. Because, I'm assuming a lot of people are probably going to think, well, just run this with Stakeout, like, people would with Fast Track. But the problem is, with both Fast Track and Hyper Focus, the downside of running Stakeout is, the upside is that, obviously, you get to activate the perk more, but the downside is you don't get to build the perk up as much to get a bigger progression. But I'm still a little bit confused with how this perk works, so we'll have to see, but it's definitely a perk that, it rewards higher performance players and players that are really, really good at hitting skill checks, which I think is a good thing. That's a great thing. You should reward good gameplay, but I'm still a little bit confused with how it works. Pretty much it for the perks. So giving you a general consensus on the killer's power and all of the perks. There was only really one perk that I think is just absolutely not worth running, which is low profile. That's probably the only perk that's just straight up bad in this selection. But other than that, some pretty good perk options, and nothing out of this world, nothing that seems really meta-worthy. As far as Wesker's power, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be one of the most fun powers to use in the game. I'm really excited to use it. I think it has a lot of potential. Obviously, it's going to have a high skill cap, and I'd really like to see players get really, really good with his power in the future. So that's my consensus on that. And one last thing to talk about is they made some map changes to RPD, which I don't need to scroll down or anything like that. They made some map changes to RPD, And this has been a thing that has needed to be done since the release of the first Resident Evil chapter, and they have been talking about doing this for a while. Basically, they divided up the RPD into the East and West Wing, which I think that's kind of like a little bit of a misleading term. It doesn't mean that it's just cut in half or whatever. Really, it's just a few map changes here and there with where you can get around or where certain holes are in the wall and everything like that, and what spots are open and things like that. But you still pretty much get access to the whole RPD, but there's more ways to get around. You don't have to go extremely far out of your way to get to a certain spot. And that's all we really needed for RPD. I don't think a lot of people were saying they should just make the map smaller, which I don't think is really going to help. In fact, I think it's just going to make it even more clustered and give you less options to to be able to get around to certain spots. I think this is the best thing they could have done. And if you've ever actually played the Resident Evil games, there are a lot of spots in RPD where certain pathways are like blocked off, and you actually have to unlock those pathways as you progress through the game. So I think it actually makes sense lore-wise to have certain spots in the map blocked off or have certain spots opened up. So I think this is a good change. It's going to make navigating RPD a lot easier. It's not confusing. It's just super annoying having to try to get to a certain spot, but you have to go like take a large detour and then finally be able to get there. So I think this is a good change. There's two different maps, and they're slightly different as far as I can see. I haven't played on the maps before, but as far as I can see from gameplay, they're slightly different. They opened up like a new outside area as well. So overall, I'm really excited about these map changes and pretty much everything else in general. So tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'm really excited to start playing Wesker. I'm super glad he's in the game. Such a cool Resident Evil character, and I'm so happy to have him in Dead by Daylight as well. As far as the perks go, some pretty cool perks that I'm definitely interested in trying out, but nothing really terrible at all. Two great survivors, Rebecca and especially Ada. Definitely a great Resident Evil character, so overall, I'm really, really excited for this chapter, and I'm honest with that. Like, I have not been this excited for a new chapter for a while. So, yeah, I'm excited to start playing Wesker and trying out these new perks and everything like that. So, tell me your thoughts in the comment section. Other than that, as far as upcoming videos, I'm going to be scheduling for 3 consecutive days the horror slasher killer matchups and I'm going to be to get those done. And that's pretty much all I have planned in the future right now. Other than that, like and subscribe, guys, and I will see you next time.